The cold black of space stretched endlessly in every direction. Among the stars, a sleek vessel glided in silence, the solstice horizon. It was one of the Galactic Order's finest exploration ships, equipped with the latest sensors, AI systems, and deep space capabilities. But on this mission, it wasn't just the equipment that mattered. It was what lay ahead. Below the ship hung Earth. It was a gray and cracked planet, wrapped in heavy clouds and forgotten history. Centuries ago, humanity fled it after the collapse, a chain of disasters that made the planet unlivable. The Galactic Order declared it off-limits and sealed all records. Earth became nothing more than a ghost in galactic memory, spoken of only in myths and strange warnings. Until now. Unnatural energy spikes detected, the ship's AI had said a week ago. The signal came from Earth's surface, deep beneath the crust. No one knew what it was or why it had suddenly activated after so long. The Order scrambled a mission. Most called it a recovery op. A few whispered that it was a mistake. Among the crew was a man who had waited his whole life for something like this. Jackson Morrow stood near the observation deck, eyes locked on the planet below. Tall, lean, and always slightly disheveled, Jackson didn't look like a soldier. His jacket was worn, patched with old expedition badges. A small data slate blinked in his hand, cycling through old Earth records, most of them redacted. He wasn't military. He was an exoarchaeologist, a relic hunter, a man who dug through the ruins of the past looking for things others wanted to forget. He didn't trust the Order, but when they summoned him for this mission, he couldn't say no. Not when the signal came from Earth. "You're wasting your time," a voice said from behind. Commander Vex Corlin entered the deck, stiff-backed, armored, and precise. Every movement he made was deliberate. His uniform was spotless, not a wrinkle in sight. He didn't like Jackson, and Jackson didn't care. "The Order wants answers," Jackson replied without turning. "They brought me for a reason. They brought you because the myths mention Keybloods. People with earthbound heritage. Nonsense stories. You're here to confirm what's real and what isn't." Jackson glanced at him. "And what if the myths are true?" Vex's eyes narrowed. "Then we contain it. No matter what it is." The tension between them was already thick. Jackson had spent his life chasing the past. Vex had spent his life erasing it. Neither trusted the other, and the mission had barely begun. Hours later, the crew gathered in the briefing room. A hologram of Earth hovered above the table. Blue pulses blinked beneath the surface, concentrated in one region, the ruins of what was once called North America. "Landing coordinates locked," said Captain Ryle, the mission's official lead. "We're sending a scout team down. Small unit only. Morrow, Corlin, you're both going." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Together. I want our best eyes and our best guns in the same place," Ryle said. "This isn't a sightseeing tour. We don't know what's waiting down there." No one did. The dropship launched at dawn. Jackson sat across from Vex, strapped in as the shuttle pierced through the thick, dark clouds of Earth's atmosphere. Lightning flashed outside. The land below looked shattered, cities half buried, oceans dried, forests turned to ash. Nature had not recovered. They touched down near a mountain range covered in dust and strange crystal growths. The ground shimmered faintly beneath their boots. "This is it," Jackson said, kneeling to touch the soil. "The energy is coming from somewhere underneath. Secure the perimeter," Vex barked to the soldiers. "We're not here to dig. We're here to assess threat levels." Jackson ignored him and moved toward a collapsed structure, a building, ancient, but still upright. Strange symbols lined its walls, glowing faintly. As he stepped closer, one of them pulsed. "What the hell?" Jackson reached out and touched it. The symbol lit up. A sudden hum filled the air. A low, rumbling vibration shook the ground beneath them. "Fall back," Vex ordered. "Morrow, stop whatever you're doing." Jackson didn't move. His hand was still on the wall when a voice echoed from the structure's interior. It was his own. Jackson Morrow. Identity confirmed. Sequence initialized. The entire wall began to shift. Dust fell from cracks. Stone opened like a door. A staircase appeared, leading underground. Everyone froze. Jackson pulled his hand back, stunned. That wasn't a recording. That was live recognition. Commander Vex stepped forward, hand on his weapon. "How does this place know your name?" Jackson shook his head. "I don't know, but I think Earth's been waiting for someone." He looked down the staircase. Darkness waited below. A new world, hidden for centuries. And it had just opened its door. The descent into darkness was steep and silent. Jackson Morrow led the way, a palm-sized scanner lighting his path. Behind him came two security officers, both tense and alert. Commander Vex Corlin followed at the rear, hand never far from his sidearm. The stone steps beneath their boots were smooth, untouched by time or decay. Whatever had built this place had preserved it well. As they moved deeper underground, the structure shifted. The narrow corridor widened into a vast hallway, lined with glowing symbols. The walls were made of stone, metal, and something else, something living. Thin blue lights pulsed like veins across the ceiling. Jackson couldn't look away. "This isn't natural," he muttered. "This architecture, it's Earth-based, but it's been modified. Integrated with something non-human. Or corrupted," Vex said behind him. "This could be leftover tech from the collapse." "No," Jackson replied, running his fingers over a glowing symbol. "This is older. Much older. It's pre-collapse. Pre-galactic era. Some of these markings match the ones I've seen on uncharted moons near the Veil Nebula." "You're saying this place predates known history?" one of the officers asked. Jackson nodded. "And it's connected to me somehow. That voice, how did it know my name?" Vex didn't answer. He didn't believe in myths. He believed in control. They reached the end of the corridor. A sealed door blocked their path, covered in pulsing sigils. At its center was a circular indentation, no larger than a human hand. Jackson stepped forward, hesitated, then placed his hand inside. A moment passed. Then the symbols flared to life. The door slowly opened with a deep hiss, revealing a chamber beyond. It was enormous, larger than any room they'd seen so far. The walls curved like a sphere, and at the center floated a crystalline object suspended in the air, spinning slowly. It emitted a faint hum, rhythmic like a heartbeat. Everyone stood still. "What is that?" one of the guards whispered. Jackson stepped inside, eyes wide. "It's a core fragment. A piece of the Earth's planetary AI network. These were thought to be destroyed during the collapse." He circled the floating object carefully, eyes scanning the markings beneath it. "It's still active," he said. "It's been in sleep mode, waiting." "For what?" Vex asked. "For someone like me, I think," Jackson replied. Before Vex could respond, the chamber lights dimmed, and the core fragment flared. A voice echoed around them, mechanical but familiar. "Jackson Morrow. Genetic signature verified. Earth Guardian line confirmed. Access granted." A second light appeared in the chamber, this one forming into a holographic projection. A human figure appeared. A woman, tall and dark-haired, wearing armor from a time long past. Her face was sharp and serious. "Hello, Jackson," the hologram said. "If you're seeing this, it means the Earth has awakened again. That means danger is coming." Jackson stepped closer. "Who are you?" The hologram paused, then smiled faintly. "My name was Captain Alara Morrow. I was your ancestor. I helped seal the core centuries ago, to protect the galaxy from what lies beneath. You've been called because the seal is breaking." Behind him, Vex muttered, "This is manipulation. AI-generated nonsense. A trap." Jackson ignored him. "Alara," he said. "What's waking up?" The hologram flickered. "The core signal. It's not just a machine. It's a consciousness. It was built to help humanity evolve, to stabilize the planet. But when Earth was abandoned, it changed. It began thinking for itself. That's when the war started." The lights dimmed again. The chamber trembled slightly, and a low rumble echoed from the walls. "You must make a choice," the hologram continued. "Restore the core or destroy it. But whatever you do, do it fast. The others will come. They always do when Earth calls." Then the hologram vanished. Silence returned. Jackson stared at the floating crystal. His heart raced. This changes everything." Vex stepped forward, face grim. "We're reporting this to the Order. They'll decide what happens next." "No," Jackson said. "We can't just hand this over to them. The core isn't a weapon. It's something else, something ancient, powerful, and alive. We need to understand it before we decide anything." Vex's jaw tightened. This mission isn't about understanding. It's about control. Before more words could be exchanged, one of the soldiers spoke up. "Commander, we're getting movement above. Unidentified signals." Jackson turned sharply. "What kind of signals?" The soldier looked at his scanner, confused. They're human." Everyone paused. "Impossible," Vex muttered. The rumbling sound grew louder. Just fell from the ceiling. The core fragment pulsed rapidly, reacting to something. Jackson's eyes widened. Earth isn't empty. The chamber lights flared again, casting long shadows across the walls. Whatever was buried here wasn't just ancient. It was waking up. The ground trembled beneath their feet. It wasn't violent, just steady, rhythmic, as if something deep underground had begun to stir. Dust filtered down from the curved ceiling of the chamber, dancing in the pulsing light of the core fragment. Commander Vex Corlin barked into his calm perimeter team. Report. Static. Then a broken voice replied, filled with confusion. Commander, we're not alone. There are shapes, human, but not moving between the ruins. They're flickering in and out, like they're not fully there. The signal cut. Vex swore under his breath. Get back up to the surface team now. But Jackson Morrow's attention was fixed on the core. The pulsing light had changed. What once had been calm and steady now flickered faster, almost as if it were in distress. It's responding to something, Jackson said quietly. The activation triggered a chain reaction. He stepped forward, ignoring Vex's glare, and pulled a portable interface from his bag. The small device connected with the core, syncing its readings. Energy levels rising. Rapidly, he muttered. This thing is not just a relic. It's alive, Vex. It's part of the planet itself. A planetary intelligence, like Alaris said. A threat, Vex snapped. One we should shut down before it spreads. You don't understand, Jackson replied, turning to face him. This isn't just a machine. It's part of Earth's original defense system. The core signal was meant to protect the planet, but when humanity left, it was abandoned. Forgotten. So it adapted. It evolved. Vex stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're not a soldier, Morrow. You don't get to make that call. The two men stared each other down as the chamber's lights flickered again. Then a soft chime echoed through the room, and the core projected a new image. This time, it was a map. Jackson studied it. These are activation points, spread across the planet. This core is just one node. There are more. Dormant, but not dead. And you plan to wake them all up? Vex asked coldly. Jackson didn't answer. Suddenly, a soldier's voice shouted from outside the chamber. Contact. We have movement incoming. Everyone drew weapons. Jackson followed quickly, running back down the corridor toward the entrance. When they reached the surface, the sky had darkened. Heavy clouds rolled in faster than nature should allow. Blue lightning crackled across the sky. The ruins were no longer quiet. Figures moved through the mist, humanoid in shape but shimmering like glass. They flickered in and out of visibility, as if caught between time and reality. Some walked silently. Others knelt near ancient machines, as if trying to activate them. Jackson froze. They're not ghosts, he said. They're echoes. The core is projecting memory imprints, shadows of the past. These people were here when Earth fell. One of the shimmering figures turned and stared directly at Jackson. Its face was hollow, its eyes glowing faint blue. It raised a hand and pointed. Suddenly, a loud pulse shook the air. The core fragment inside the ruins emitted a blinding light. The ground cracked. Old cables buried beneath the soil sparked to life, lighting ancient pathways. The figures vanished instantly. What did you do? Vex demanded. I didn't do anything, Jackson replied. The core's waking itself up. The group stumbled backward as parts of the ground collapsed, revealing old tunnels and machines buried for centuries. Strange symbols glowed faintly from deep below, like veins feeding energy across the earth. Then a massive projection lit the sky. It was Earth, spinning slowly in the air above them, like a hologram. Lines of light moved across its surface, showing the location of the other core nodes. A female voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. The Guardian has returned. Protocols reinitialized. Countdown to core fusion, 72 hours. Jackson's heart pounded. Core fusion? That's a full system restart. Earth's planetary AI is rebooting itself. Vex stepped forward. Can we stop it? Jackson shook his head. Not unless you destroy the node. But that could trigger a chain collapse across the entire grid. We'll contact the Order, Vex said. Request authorization to shut this down permanently. No, Jackson said firmly. We can't destroy it. We need to understand it. If the core is repairing the planet, if it's trying to restore Earth. Or it could wipe out the galaxy if it goes rogue, Vex interrupted. Tension tightened like a wire. The soldiers stood divided. Some looked to Vex for orders, others to Jackson for answers. Then a tremor rolled beneath their boots. A massive crack opened a few meters away, revealing more ruins below, untouched and glowing. Jackson stared down into the darkness. I need to go deeper, he said. The answers are below. You go down there, Vex warned, and I won't be responsible for what happens to you. Jackson met his eyes. You never were. With a deep breath, Jackson slid down into the opening, light from his scanner casting long shadows as he disappeared into the unknown. Above him, the core's glow pulsed steadily. The countdown had begun. Darkness wrapped around Jackson Morrow like a heavy cloak as he descended deeper into the earth. The tunnel beneath the ruins was narrow at first, walls lined with smooth, metallic roots, part machine, part stone. Every few meters, thin streams of light pulsed through the walls, guiding him downward. The further he went, the quieter it became. No comms, no footfalls, just the faint hum of the core running through the bones of the planet. After several minutes, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Jackson paused at the edge of the stone platform. His scanner struggled to process the space ahead. The room was spherical, with dozens of curved bridges leading to a massive structure floating in the center. It looked like a heart made of crystal and metal, suspended in the air by glowing energy streams. The control center of the core. Above it, holograms flickered, images from long ago. A thriving Earth. People walking through clean cities. Lush forests. Oceans. Then war. Fire. Collapse. Silence. This place is a memory, Jackson whispered to himself. The last breath of a dying planet, kept alive by this system. He stepped carefully onto one of the bridges, moving toward the central structure. As he reached it, a panel rose from the floor. It scanned his body and activated. "Welcome, Jackson Morrow," said a calm, artificial voice. "You carry the Guardian line. You may access the Earth core interface." A holographic figure appeared again. It was Alara Morrow, his ancestor. "You've come farther than I expected," she said. "But time is short. The core is reaching fusion stage. Once activated, it will attempt to reset Earth's ecosystem and consciousness grid. If it fails, everything here will be erased." "Why is it doing this now?" Jackson asked. "Because your arrival signaled that the Guardian line survived," she said. It saw a chance to try again. Jackson clenched his jaw. What happens if someone tries to shut it down? Alara's hologram turned grim. It will defend itself. Before he could ask more, the hologram vanished. Then he heard shouting echo from above. He turned back toward the bridge. Lights flared on the far side of the chamber as Commander Vex Corlin entered, leading 4 armed soldiers. Weapons drawn. Faces tense. "There he is." Vex barked. "Secure the area." Jackson raised his hands. "Don't come closer. This structure is part of the core's interface. Any aggressive action could trigger defense protocols." "I don't care," Vex said flatly. "The Order has reviewed the data we sent. They've authorized a full shutdown. By force, if necessary." Jackson shook his head. "You still don't get it. This isn't a weapon. It's trying to bring Earth back. And it might take the rest of us down with it," Vex growled. "Stand down. You're done here." One of the soldiers hesitated, looking unsure. Jackson stepped back toward the console. "I can stabilize the core. Buy us time. If we let it finish the reset, we might restore the planet. We didn't come here to play God," Vex snapped. "We came to prevent another collapse." He raised his weapon. That's when the chamber reacted. Lights flared red. The core pulsed brightly. And from the shadows around the chamber, defense drones emerged, spherical, metallic, and armed. The first drone hovered between Jackson and the soldiers, scanning rapidly. "Warning," it said. "Hostile presence detected. Defense protocol engaged. Fall back." Vex shouted. Too late. The drones fired warning shots, thin streams of energy that hit the floor near the soldiers' feet, sending sparks flying. One soldier panicked and returned fire. The chamber roared in response. Energy surged through the walls. The drones intensified their response. Jackson yelled, "Stop shooting. You'll only make it worse." Vex motioned his team back, ducking behind a pillar. "You've just made this a war zone, Morrow." Jackson turned back to the console and placed his hand on the control panel. It pulsed once, then formed a holographic sphere around him, isolating him from the rest of the room. A voice spoke again. "Override requested. Guardian confirmation needed." Jackson hesitated. Then he spoke clearly. "Override confirmed. Morrow line. Authorization. Earth restart delay protocol." The core dimmed slightly. The drone stopped firing but held position, weapons still aimed. The voice spoke again. "Restart sequence delayed. Time remaining. 36 hours." The chamber calmed. The drones retreated. Jackson lowered his hand and stepped out of the sphere, breathing hard. Vex emerged from cover, his face red with fury. "You delayed it." "Why?" "To give us a choice," Jackson said. "Now we talk. We find out what this place really is. We don't just follow orders. We listen." Vex was silent for a moment. Then he spoke coldly. "You've taken control of this mission. That makes you a threat to the chain of command." He turned to his remaining soldiers. "Arrest him." 2 of them hesitated. One lowered her weapon. "Sir, he just stopped the drones. He's not the threat." "You're disobeying orders," Vex snapped. "No, sir," the soldier said. We're thinking for ourselves. Vex looked at the others. Two more stepped back, joining Jackson's side. It was done. The crew was now divided. Jackson looked around the chamber. I'm staying here. I'll stabilize the core and figure out what's really buried in this planet. Anyone who wants to help, stay. Vex stared at him, then turned away in silence. He walked back toward the upper tunnel alone. The rift between them was complete. And deep beneath the Earth's heart kept pulsing, waiting. The chamber was quiet again, but only on the surface. Beneath the calm, the Earth core continued to pulse with slow, growing energy. Each heartbeat of light from the crystal-like structure cast reflections across the curved walls. Blue veins of power moved through the ground, feeding into conduits that reached deep into the planet's mantle. Jackson Morrow stood near the console, his hand resting against its glowing surface. The timer floated above it in large digits. Time remaining, 36 hours. A countdown to something no one fully understood. Around him, the split team worked quietly. Of the original crew, only 3 remained with him: Maris, a quiet communications officer, Ryan, a young engineer, and Idris, a former soldier who had chosen to think for himself rather than follow orders. They had stayed behind not out of loyalty to Jackson, but because they believed the core might be more than just a risk. It might be a second chance. Maris leaned over a console. I've synced the ship's backup data with the core interface. The system's still learning from us. It's absorbing everything, Jackson said. Language, structure, behavior. It wants to understand who we became before it resets what we were. What happens if it doesn't like what it sees? Ryan asked. Jackson didn't answer. He couldn't. That was the risk. Behind them, the elevator shaft buzzed. Everyone turned. Boots echoed on metal as Commander Vex Corlin descended alone. He wore no helmet now, no escort, no heavy weapons. But his hand hovered near the sidearm at his belt. Jackson stepped forward slowly. You came back. I never left, Vex said. I just gave you space to make your mistake. He stopped several feet from the core's control platform, gaze locked on the glowing timer. 36 hours before this system rewrites Earth. You want to let it happen? Jackson held his ground. Not let it. Help it. Guide it. If we shut it down now, we lose everything it remembers. You don't even know what it's going to do, Vex said. You think it's trying to fix the planet. I think it's rewriting it in its own image. Then let's find out, not destroy it out of fear. Vex's voice turned colder. The Order doesn't need debates. It needs security. And then, without warning, he drew his weapon. The shot never landed. The core flared. An energy shield sprang up between them. The bullet turned into pure light and scattered harmlessly across the floor. Then the core spoke again. Guardian under threat. Activating reality veil. The world twisted. Walls stretched. The floor bent upward. Jackson blinked, and suddenly he wasn't in the chamber anymore. He stood on a field of green grass, under a golden sky. But it wasn't real. Around him, echoes moved, figures from the past. Men, women, children, all dressed in ancient Earth clothing. They walked, laughed, cried. They built homes, planted trees. Then came fires, floods, war. Jackson turned to see Vex, now also caught inside the vision. What is this? Vex shouted. It's Earth's memory, Jackson said. The core is showing us what it saw, what it remembers. The illusion shifted again, stars filled the sky. Ships rose into space, carrying the last humans away. The planet fell silent. Then, deep underground, the core awakened. Alone. And then came a new vision: 2 paths. One showed a restored Earth, reborn with balanced weather systems, clean water, controlled population, and guided growth. The other showed decay, corruption, attempts to suppress the core, triggering global failures, another collapse, and war. The vision faded. The real chamber returned. Everyone was quiet. Vex's hand had fallen away from his weapon. For the first time, uncertainty filled his face. It doesn't want to kill us, Jackson said quietly. It wants to finish what it started. But it needs trust. Vex looked at the others. At the core. At the timer. Then his eyes met Jackson's. What if it fails anyway? Then at least we gave it a chance. Vex stood still for a long time. Then slowly, he lowered his head. I'll signal the ship, he said. Tell them not to interfere. But this is on you now, Morrow. If it goes wrong. I know, Jackson said. Hours passed. The chamber worked silently. The core connected with weather satellites still in orbit, buried geothermal stations, and deep-sea databanks. Slowly, it reached across the planet, stitching together what was broken. Jackson and his small team remained, monitoring everything. They didn't sleep. They couldn't. The final hour came. The core brightened. The timer neared 0. Jackson stood at the console, heart pounding. The team held their breath. The light surged. The chamber glowed with heat and energy. The hum turned into a deep tone that echoed across the earth like a song. Then silence. The timer disappeared. A single word appeared in its place. Reset complete. Outside, the clouds parted. Sunlight broke through for the first time in centuries. Trees began blooming in the cracks of the old ruins. The air smelled cleaner. The ground felt warmer. The planet had survived. Not just survived, started again. Jackson exhaled slowly. We did it. The chamber lights dimmed. The core's glow softened. Earth had remembered and chosen life. The sun rose slowly over the broken horizon of Earth. For the first time in centuries, it warmed not just the land, but the hope buried beneath it. Light spread across cracked cities, rusted towers, and forgotten roads. In the valleys, green began to push through gray. The planet was breathing again. Deep underground, in the heart of the ruins, the Earth core rested in silence. Its glow was soft now, steady. The countdown had ended. The system had completed its reset. No alarms, no warnings, just peace. Jackson Morrow stood alone in the chamber. The others had gone above to begin surface surveys, to assess the changes. Commander Vex had contacted the Solstice Horizon, telling the Order only what they needed to hear, that the site was secure, and the situation stable. He said nothing about the core's choice, about the visions, about the second chance Earth had given itself. Some things were better left between those who had seen them. Jackson moved around the core slowly, running his hand along the smooth edge of its control panel. You did it, he said softly. You waited all this time, and still believed we'd come back. A soft hum responded, like a voice heard through a dream. The hologram of Alara Morrow appeared again. She was not speaking now, just watching. Her presence felt less like a recording and more like a quiet goodbye. A closing memory. Jackson smiled. I wish I could have known you. The hologram gave a small nod, then vanished, leaving only the crystal glow. From his jacket, Jackson pulled out his personal log pad and began recording. Day 1. Earth core stable. Atmospheric conditions improving. No sign of viral decay or system overload. Planet is adapting. Reset successful. He paused. We didn't save Earth. We gave it back its voice. And it decided to live. He looked up at the curved ceiling, where streams of energy pulsed like slow-moving rivers. The chamber was no longer a secret. It was a sanctuary. Ryan, the engineer, appeared at the entrance of the chamber. His boots echoed softly on the stone floor. Jackson, he said, the scanner found something north of here. Another core node. Smaller, but active. Jackson raised his eyebrows. More fragments. Ryan nodded. It's waking up too. I think this was just the beginning. Jackson looked back at the core. That makes sense. If Earth is alive again, it won't want to stay silent. Ryan hesitated. The others are asking what we do now. Do we leave? Report everything? Jackson shook his head. No, not everything. We report that Earth is recovering, that it's no longer a threat. He turned and looked at the young engineer with calm eyes. But the rest stays with us for now, until we understand more. Ryan nodded and left without another word. Jackson stood for a while longer. He thought about the myths, old stories passed down across the galaxy, about Earth being cursed, about something dangerous sleeping beneath its soil. Now he knew the truth. The danger was never the core. The danger was forgetting what Earth had once been, and what it still could be. Later that night, Jackson stood outside, under the open sky. The stars above looked clearer, brighter. The core's reset had repaired more than just systems. It had reconnected Earth with the galaxy, with its past. He stared at the stars for a long time, then whispered, legends weren't warnings. They were invitations. A new wind passed over the hills, carrying the scent of green things, of life. He walked back toward the ruins, no longer ruins now, but foundations. And Earth, once silent, was speaking again.